business news now with Stephen Carroll. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Catherine.
We're going to start with some good news for once for the French economy.
Yes, I'm sure the French government will be delighted to have some good news this morning after those election results. A new survey of the manufacturing and services sector in this country showing surprise growth this month. It's the Purchasing Managers Index survey. This is a first estimate showing both sectors in expansion, much better than had been expected. They had been expected to contract yet again this month, and the rate of growth is in fact at its highest level in almost 3 years. This survey surveys companies who are in those sectors and gives a kind of broader picture of where things are with the economy. Let's have a look at how the markets have reacted to that news. Paris's CAC 40, in fact, opening in the red despite that good news from the French economy. The crisis in Ukraine still weighing in general across the European markets. London's FTSE and Frankfurt's DAX opening up, but only just slightly. Over in Asia, it was a more positive start to the week on the Asian markets. That's despite a survey of Chinese manufacturers showing this activity in the sector was at an 8-month low in March, prompting those concerns again over the growth in the world's second largest economy. The Nikkei closing up 1.8% and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong leading the gains there, up almost 2%.
OK, so we've had some surprise good news for France's manufacturing sector, but there are some businesses here in France that say that they're suffering because the euro is too strong. Yeah,
the value of currency is actually one of the major factors that's been moving markets over the past 12 months. Let's have a look at how the euro has been trading against the dollar over the past year. You can see it was climbing steadily over that period at almost its highest level now since 2011. And that means that European exporters are finding it harder to sell their products abroad as they're more expensive to those who are buying from outside the eurozone. In southwest France, the problem is affecting those aircraft manufacturers that have sprung up around Airbus's headquarters in Toulouse. From there, Chris Bachmann reports.
It's showtime. Daher Sakata may not be a household name like Airbus, but it's France's fourth biggest airplane maker and just unveiled its latest 6-seater aircraft, the TBM 900. They cost €3.5 million each, and 80% of them are sold in the US and Asia. They are market leaders, but the company says they are competing against their rivals with one arm tied behind their back.
The high euro makes it very difficult for us to sell at the right price. So we have to invest much more than other countries in innovation, in robotization, automatization, in order to compensate the price of the euro.
3 hours away by car is this supplier, Carroll. It has a niche market making parts for aircraft that are still flying but no longer being built. Just 15% of its business is outside the eurozone, but management is under pressure from clients to bill in dollars, and that could mean less work for subcontractors in France.
To compensate for the fluctuation of the dollar, we have to buy a maximum of raw materials and components in dollars. So we're obliged to look for subcontractors outside the eurozone.
Both companies say maintaining the aerospace know-how in Europe is their priority, but extremely difficult in the long term if the high euro means their overheads are automatically 20% higher.
A quick look now at some of the day's other business stories. And Apple is said to be in talks with the American cable operator Comcast over a new streaming TV service. The Wall Street Journal says the proposal would see Comcast providing special bandwidth for a set-top box made by Apple. Such a deal would ensure faster streaming speeds for programs watched using the service. And the financial newspaper Les Echos here in France says a delegation from Netflix is meeting France's culture minister later this Monday to discuss the service's launch here in this country. The company says it wants to expand in Europe this year. France was among those countries targeted. The government, though, is keen to ensure that Netflix opens an office here in France, where it would be subject to certain levies that support French-made programming.
OK, now we've had a bit of a barrage of statistics here on Live from Paris this morning with the results of the French local election, first round yesterday, and you've got some more statistics for us about the elections, how much they cost.
Yeah, an expensive business elections by the looks of things. Those more than 23 million votes cast in France on Sunday came at a cost to French taxpayers of more than 128 million euros. Now that expenses include, it's broken down into several major areas. The biggest of them is expenses for candidates. The French government reimburses candidates for the expenses they have incurred while campaigning, over 51 million. In fact, printing the election materials that get posted to voters and also those ballot papers available in polling stations, that's over 26 million in costs. And the staffing costs of staffing those polling stations during the 2 days of voting tot up to almost 11 million euros. Now, this all part as the French government tries to drive down how much money it's spending. These elections will cost less than the last parliamentary elections, which came in at around 164 million, and much less than the last presidential election, which was almost 200 million euros cost to the taxpayer.
Oh, an eye-watering amount of money there. Thanks very much. Stephen Carroll with the latest business news here on France 24.